let's talk about an investment strategy that millions of us use, sometimes without even thinking about it. It's called dollar cost averaging. It's the engine behind our retirement accounts. It's the first piece of advice we give new investors. But what if I told you that most of the time, like 2/3 of the time, it's actually not the most profitable way to invest your money? That's the puzzle we're going to unpack today. This is the investor's dilemma, a battle between what the math says we should do and what our human brains can actually handle. Let's dive in.
So this right here, this is the question at the absolute heart of it all. We've all heard that classic saying, right? It's about time in the market, not timing the market. And that makes perfect sense. It champions consistency. But there's a flip side, a really powerful counter-argument. What if the best time to invest was yesterday? What if getting every last dollar you have working for you right now is the superior move from a pure numbers perspective? This isn't just some academic debate, It's a clash of philosophies, and understanding both sides is absolutely key to figuring out a strategy that will actually work for you in the real world.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get on the same page and define exactly what we mean by dollar cost averaging. Then we'll get into its biggest selling point, its psychological superpower. After that, though, we have to face the music with a hard mathematical reality check. From there, we'll figure out how to build a practical strategy for you. And finally, we'll land on the one big takeaway you need to remember.
Okay, first things first. Let's build a solid foundation here. No confusing jargon, just a really simple, straightforward look at what this whole thing is all about. The definition itself is actually beautifully simple. The two key phrases you really need to lock into your brain are fixed amount and regular intervals. That's it. It could be $50 from every paycheck. It could be $500 on the first of every single month. The core idea is just pure consistency. You make a plan, and then you stick to it no matter what the headlines are screaming about the market. You're not trying to be a genius and guess if things are high or low. You're just investing systematically. It is the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it approach to building wealth.
Let's make this real. This little table shows you the magic of how it works in practice. So, month 1, super straightforward. You invest your $500, the price is $50 a share, you get 10 shares. Easy. But now look at month 2. The market dips, the price drops to $40. For a lot of people that feels, scary, right? But with your DCA plan, this dip is actually an opportunity. Your same $500 doesn't buy 10 shares anymore, it now buys you more, 12.5 shares. Then, in month 3, the market bounces back, the price is up to $55. Now your $500 buys you a little less. See what's happening? You are automatically, without any guesswork, buying more when things are on sale and less when they're a bit pricey.
So what's the end result of all that? Well, let's do some quick math. You put in a total of $1,500 over the 3 months, and for that, you got a total of 31.59 shares. So if you divide your total investment by your total shares, you find that your average cost for each share was just $47.49. Now think about that. The price went from 50 to 40 to 55. The simple average of those prices is $48.33. You actually paid less per share than the average price over that time. That is the mechanical advantage of dollar cost averaging. In a market that bounces around, it can systematically lower the average price you pay.
Now that little math trick is pretty neat, but believe it or not, that's not the real reason this strategy is so famous and so powerful. Nope, the true superpower of DCA is all about how it helps us fight our #1 worst enemy as an investor, which, of course, is ourselves. Let's dig into its psychological power.
Every single one of us who invests is on this emotional roller coaster, and it's driven by two massive forces, fear and greed. Greed is that FOMO, the fear of missing out, that little voice in your head screaming, "Go all in, it's going to the moon," when prices are soaring. And fear? Fear is that gut punch of panic when the market crashes, telling you to sell everything before it all goes to zero. These two feelings are why so many people make the classic mistake. They buy high and they sell low. DCA is like a seatbelt on that roller coaster. By putting your decisions on autopilot, it takes those gut-wrenching emotional choices out of your hands. It also helps with something called regret risk. You know that awful sinking feeling when you invest a big chunk of money and then watch it immediately drop? DCA just smooths out the whole journey.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. This is the whole point. What good is a perfect investment plan if you bail on it the first time things get scary? A strategy is only useful if you can actually follow it, through good times and bad. DCA is designed for messy, emotional human beings. It's a system built to keep you in the game, to keep you investing, even when every fiber of your being is telling you to run for the hills. Its real strength is making sure you don't quit.
Okay, so far, dollar cost averaging sounds like a total slam dunk, right? It's smart, it's disciplined, it protects us from our worst impulses. Well, here comes the plot twist. It's time to take off our psychology hats and put on our mathematician hats. We need to see what happens when we just run the numbers. This is the case against DCA.
And this, for many people, is a genuine shock. A huge study by Vanguard, we're talking one of the biggest investment companies on the planet, crunched the numbers. They looked back at decades of historical data from markets all around the world, and their conclusion was totally unambiguous. About 2/3 of the time, you would have ended up with more money if you had just invested it all on day one. We call that lump sum investing, or LSI. So, wait a minute. If the math says going all in right away is better 2/3 of the time, why on earth is DCA so popular? What's really going on here?
The reason lump sum investing usually comes out on top boils down to one fundamental truth about the market. Over the long run, it tends to go up. It's not a straight line, of course, but the general trend is upward. Because of that, the more time your money has in the market, the more time it has to grow and compound. LSI gets every single dollar working for you from the get-go. DCA, on the other hand, by its very definition, keeps some of your money on the sidelines, waiting for next month or the month after that. This uninvested money creates something called cash drag. It's like having part of your team just sitting in the break room instead of out on the field playing. That cash drag is the mathematical price you pay for all those wonderful psychological benefits of DCA.
And this leads us to a really dangerous but common misunderstanding. People think DCA makes investing safe. It doesn't. Think about it. Let's say you decide to DCA a big sum of money over 12 months. Well, by the time you make that last investment in month 12, all of your money is now in the market. At that point, you have the exact same exposure to a market crash as the person who invested it all as a lump sum a year ago. DCA doesn't protect you from market risk long term. What it does is manage the risk of your entry point and, maybe more importantly, manage the psychological stress of getting invested in the first place.
So now we've got this conflict, right? This tug of war. On one side, DCA is the behavioral champion. On the other, LSI is, more often than not, the mathematical winner. The solution isn't to ask which one is better. That's the wrong question. The right question is, which one is right for me and for my specific situation?
So, when is DCA the absolute no-brainer clear winner? Well, for most of us, most of the time, the decision's already made for us. If you invest a part of every paycheck into your 401k or an IRA, guess what? You're already using DCA. It's the most natural way to invest when your money comes in periodically. It's also a really, really smart strategy for things that are super volatile. Think cryptocurrencies or maybe a single risky stock. But honestly, the most important reason to use DCA is all about self-awareness. If you know, deep down, that seeing your account drop 20% would make you lose sleep and hit that sell button, then DCA is for you. Full stop. The peace of mind it buys you is worth way more than any potential extra return.
So what about lump sum? When does it make sense to go with the mathematically superior option? It's really for a very specific scenario, and you kind of have to tick all the boxes. First, you need a big pile of cash all at once, maybe an inheritance, a big work bonus, or you sold a house. Second, your time horizon needs to be long. We're talking 10, 20, 30 years or more, giving the market plenty of time to recover from any bumps. And third, and this is the big one, you have to have nerves of steel. You have to be the kind of person who can invest, say, $100,000, watch it turn into $70,000 a month later, and not only not panic sell, but feel totally confident in your long-term plan. If you can honestly, truly check all three of those boxes, then history says LSI is probably your more profitable move.
All right, we've looked at how it works. We've looked at the psychology. We've looked at the cold, hard math. Let's land the plane and bring this all together for the single most important takeaway.
At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. It is a huge mistake to frame this debate as which strategy makes more money. That's not the point. DCA isn't a return maximization strategy. It's a behavior modification tool. That's its job. When you choose to use DCA, you're making a conscious trade. You're giving up the potential for the best possible mathematical return in exchange for a much, much higher probability that you'll actually stick to your plan over the long haul. You are choosing the good plan you can follow over the perfect plan you might abandon at the worst possible moment.
And so that leaves us with one final crucial question that you have to ask yourself. When you really think about it, what is your biggest investment risk? Is it a sudden market crash you can't control, or is it the person you see in the mirror? Are you more likely to get hurt by the market's moves or by your own emotional reactions to those moves? Your honest answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know about which strategy is right for you. Thanks for joining me.
you.